to you and to our American friends, partners and allies, France has been living in peace for the past 6 decades. You saved us, and we will never forget.
You people do me great honor.
It's a great honor for us. It's a very great honor for us.
We have been allies, as you say, for more than 200 years.
Okay, we're now over with Jim today in his home, and we're going to see if we can get some more information about what led up to that award.
They have given it to a number of Americans over the years who have participated in battles during World War II, which really liberated France from 4 years of German occupation.
You know, the exciting thing, your family was down there. Your family was the one that put in the application. You got to be proud of your family to do that.
They did me a favor by letting me live long enough so that we could do it. The French don't give this posthumously, and I knew they were considering me for it because several years ago they contacted me and had me get a number of military records, send them to them so that they could make a judgment. We did not get our winter clothing until March of 1945, and the Germans began the bulge on December 16th, 1944. And it lasted until January 25th, 1945. So we had 6 weeks in the bulge, and all we had is our normal clothing that we'd had all summer long across, as we barreled across France and into Belgium. In the infantry, you learn to take whatever's available.
Okay.
And there were 6 of us trapped for about 7 or 8 days in the basement of a building in Belgium that had been, the first and second floors had been blown off by German artillery, but there was a basement in it which got us below ground level. So that's where we lived during the day. We couldn't go out except at night. And at night we would go out to, we ran out of food, we ran out of ammunition, and we had to go out and scrounge out of, there were a lot of dead bodies in the street outside, which some were German, some were American, who were lying there since we took the town on Christmas Day, and then our battalion retreated when the Germans counterattacked, and 6 of us didn't get out. By that time, we'd seen enough dead bodies. We'd been fighting for about 6 months, and so we'd seen our share of dead bodies, but we just knew we went through the American bodies first because we knew we could use their ammunition and our guns and all that. But we discovered that we could also use the German shells, cartridges from their Mauser, their rifles. We could use them in our M1s. We just had to take them out of their clips, which was a 5-bullet clip, and put them in ours, which was an 8-bullet clip. And we could use their grenades. We'd used them before. This was a little town in Belgium called V, spelled W-I. And we attack it Christmas morning of 1945. We jumped off about daybreak, and there were 2 main streets down this town. And we were going down the biggest one. And our platoon sergeant, Sergeant Edlin, he took a squad and went down the right side, and I took a squad and went down the left side with the street in between us. And we had to go in every house and check it out to make sure there were no Germans still hiding in there. And it took us a while. And as I'm going down the left side of the street, I noticed down near the end of the street there was a German machine gun on the ground. There were some Germans in the basement of that building, and they had the machine stuck out. It was on the ground, and it gave them a great field of fire to cover the other side of the street. So as Edlin and that squad came down the other side of the street,
They saw 'em.
it began picking them off. The machine gun began picking off our guys. And Edlin yelled across, "Somebody get that goddamn machine gun." And since I was leading the other group, I figured that I had just volunteered. And so I slid down. Being on the same side as the German machine gun,
He couldn't see.
they couldn't see me. I figured I'd get down close and pull the pin on a grenade and throw it in there. And just about the time I got close enough to do that, I thought, what if they got a guy across the street too?
Right.
But at that point it was too late. So I pulled the pin on the grenade, let it cook for 2 counts, and I threw it in the window, and it popped, a rather large explosion, and the machine gun stopped. And I went around to the door to this basement, and I kicked it in, and there were 3 Germans down there. They were beginning to move a little bit and search around for their guns. So I emptied my M1 and the 3 of them, and that took care of all of them. And we completed our search then. But knocking out the machine gun is what I got a Bronze Star for that from the American Army, and that interested the French Army too, or the French government too. We stayed in that same basement, sleeping on. They had turnips and potatoes stored down there, and because it was below ground level, we were safe from any shells unless they put a direct hit.
Well, and you must have been a little warmer too, because you were buffeted from the wind and everything.
To some extent, yeah. But the temperature went down below 0 every night for the 8 days we were there. We think it was 8 days. All we knew, when battalion, we said to battalion, "You want us to retire into the Ardennes forest?" And they said, "No. Why don't you stay there? You're in a great spot to observe the Germans. And you can, if you see any of them moving across that valley, call us in and we'll bring artillery on them." Well, for 8 days, we were their forward observers. And finally, after 7 or 8 days, we heard tanks coming, but from behind. And that was the American tanks coming. And the 2nd Armored Division and the 84th Infantry Division moved through us and relieved us. And we were reunited with the rest of our company and battalion and everything. And then we moved through the 2nd Armored and 84th Division, leapfrogging them to get the next objective. We were in Holland when we got our winter clothing. We also got our Christmas packages. When I first read that the GI Bill would give us a day in college for every day we served with our branch of service.
So you applied and you got it?
I thought I better write to the Director of Veterans Affairs at Notre Dame.
Okay.
And I wanted him to get my name in his mind, so that over the years, when he got letters from me, he would say to the people in his office, "Hey, I got another letter from that goofy Butz kid." I must have written 10 or 12 letters to the Director of Veterans Affairs, and I got letters back from him saying, "Jim, you won't have any trouble getting into Notre Dame after the war, because nothing is too good for our servicemen."
Right.
And you know that routine. And so finally, when I got out of the Army in February of 1946, I wrote him a letter and said, I'm out, I want to apply for Notre Dame as soon as I can get in. And about a month later, I got a mimeographed reply saying, "Dear prospective student, we have received your request to enroll in the September 1946 class at Notre Dame. Unfortunately, we cannot take you in September of 46 because we have so many returning veterans who left school to go into the Army and Navy and Marines during the war, who are all returning now. And all Notre Dame students must live on campus, and we have only so many dormitories, so many beds, and we have more returning students to fill them than we can fill now." I was disappointed, but I said to myself, hey, a former student who left Notre Dame to go into service has a greater right to return to Notre Dame than I do, who've never gone there. I really figured that I had a pretty high rating to get into Notre Dame because all of the action I had seen in the infantry during the war, but I figured a former student had a greater right than I did. So I began making plans to go to another college. I had earned a college scholarship when I was in high school. I was editor of the school paper, and an editorial I had written won a statewide competition, and they awarded me a 4-year academic scholarship to Kent State University, which is between Cleveland and Akron. And I figured I could take that, and I had the GI Bill anywhere.
But you did get into Notre Dame, and then you left Notre Dame in 3 years?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that you could do 3 years, and plus you worked in the sports office.
I was crushed when I was turned down, but I began making plans, my alternative. And I had several alternatives. And then I read in a paper a column written by Jim Costin, the sports editor of the South Bend Tribune, and he was reviewing Notre Dame's spring football practice in 46. And he said they have returning veterans from the 45 team like Frank Tripucka, Terry Brennan, Jim Brennan, John Mastrangelo, and going through all the returning veterans from there. And he said, and they have a number of returning veterans from service, Johnny Lujak, George Connor, all of these guys were coming back from service, and they have 4 outstanding high school graduates. Leon Hart from Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania, and 3 Chicago graduates. Mike Swistowitz, Billy Gay, and Emil Chichanowicz. Well, those 4 or 3 high school graduates really ticked me off because they didn't have a right to go to Notre Dame ahead of me, little 18-year-olds, for crying out loud. I sat down at my typewriter. I think better at a typewriter. I've always been a writer. I express myself better at a typewriter. And I typed a 3-page letter to my friend, former Chicago Tribune columnist, who was now working. He went into the Navy. After the Navy got out, he had a job with the Minneapolis Tribune. And I wrote him a letter, and I poured my little heart out. I quoted from letters I had written to the Veterans Affairs priest. I quoted from letters he had answered back and all that. And it was 3 pages. Thank God I typed it, because if I had written it longhand,
nobody could have read it.
Nobody would have read it.
Right, that's probably
and
true.
so forth. And I sent it to Mark Cox in Minneapolis, and Mark read it, and it impressed him so much. He was leaving for Des Moines, Iowa, to cover the Drake relays, and he met a guy there he knew who had been in the Army service while Mark had been in the Navy service. They had each done publicity for their different military bases. And they played each other. So Charlie Callahan was the new sports publicity director at Notre Dame, and Mark knew him because Mark was sports director for the Iowa Seahawks Navy base. Charlie had been at Lowry Air Force Base with the Air Force, and their teams had played during the war, and they knew each other. Mark said, I'm going to give this to Charlie Callahan. So he took Charlie out in Des Moines over a spaghetti dinner and a couple of pitchers of beer, and he said, you know, Charlie, you Notre Dame guys talk a good fight, but when it comes time to produce, sometimes you can't come through. And Charlie said, what the hell does that mean? And Mark reached in his pocket and pulled out my letter, and he said, here, read that. And he said, Charlie said, well, I don't know, I'm new there, but let me take it back and see if I can do anything. And Father John later filled it in for me. He said, I went in there, and there was a pile. And I sat down at my desk, and the first letter I picked up was on top of the pile, and it was your 3-page letter, typed. Thank God it was typed. And I read that, and I said, doggone, I know we're short beds. He called the head of the Veterans Affairs up, and he said, Father, are you familiar with a man named Butz? Oh, God, he said, not that goofy kid that wrote us all during the war. So the next morning he called him in. He said, how many beds are we short, Father? He said, we're short 38 beds to take care of returning veterans now. Well, he said, we're going to be 39 beds short.
This medal that they gave to you really in many ways represents all those people that you worked with or you were in the service with during that time.
It represents them more than it does me, because those people gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
God let me come home, and I married a girl I went to grade school and high school with.
The day that you won the award, your family gave you a toast, and let's go look at that. That's Sir Grandpa.
We ran out of champagne.
We ran out of champagne. Okay, here, let's look at that.
I do raise a toast to my grandfather who helped liberate France during World War II when he was just a scrawny little 18, 19-year-old kid, and to the French university stateside, University of Notre Dame, that helped raise him to the man he is. You're here. Cheers. Cheers, Grandpa. Sir Grandpa.
God, country, Notre Dame. That must have been quite an honor to see them doing that.
It was. Very few of us old geezers. I'm 88, bearing down on 89 in August, and very few of us get a chance to have our children and grandchildren sit in on winning an award as important and impressive as this French Legion of Honor. It's the highest award which this country of France can award to anyone.
Well, I'm really proud to be able to talk to you, and I'm sure that the people of Schaumburg are very appreciative of having you as one of our members. And thank you very much for your service and for interviewing me today.
It's my pleasure, believe me. I love Schaumburg.
Thank you. Have a great month.
Hello, I'm Dan McNulty. Welcome to another segment of Schaumburg Heartbeat. We're here at St. Alexis Hospital today. We're going to be talking about volunteering for the hospital. And our guest, of course, the authority on that, Monica Ergoff, who is the director of not only volunteers but also guest relations here. And Monica, first of all, I want to ask volunteer, how important are volunteers at the hospital?
Volunteers are essential to the well-being of the hospital. They do so many different things, from greeting you when you first come into the hospital to waiting at various desks at the hospital, escorting people. We're very big on escorting people. The hospital's getting larger with our continued growth. So we have over 400 volunteers with plans to grow them by another 25% by the time our new hospital opens.
Okay, I say 400 volunteers. On a daily basis, how many do you have?
We have about 70, depending on the day, about 70 volunteers from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. every evening throughout multiple departments in the hospital.
Okay. Now, let's go over the different things that they do.
Sure,
Sure. Important and how important are they? Well, what are the functions?
The main thing that the volunteer department supplies is customer service. That is number one in whatever capacity. You'll find volunteers at desks, various waiting room desks throughout the hospital. You'll find them escorting people to their various modalities, like if they're getting an x-ray, if people are going to the emergency room. We just really escort people all over the hospital. We have some clerical positions. Volunteers also work in our ER, in our medical records department, and just everywhere throughout the hospital. They really do a wonderful job for us.
Right. Now, suppose someone wants to get involved. How do they do it?
Oh, that's excellent. There's a variety of ways people can do it. They can call the hospital, and then they will be directed to me and get a return phone call. We also have online applications, which is quite honestly the majority of the people that request come through our online process. It's at Alexian Brothers Health.org. Is how people can get to volunteer, fill out an application. We also have a number of people that walk in. They've had a wonderful experience at this hospital, and they feel like they'd like to give back to their community. And we actually have hard copy applications at our information desks.
Right. And let's talk about, people, the benefits for people, who volunteer. I mean, doing, helping people. But
Sure.
What are the other benefits for people?
Well, we have such a diverse volunteer base. Minimum age 14. And the eldest volunteer we have is 90, but 14 being a freshman in high school. So the benefits are different depending upon, age and really what people want to do. But the most common things that we do here are giving back to the community, really having a sense of belonging, having another social outlet. Those are the primary things. Many students, as you probably know these days, they're required to do volunteer hours for school. It's important for college. So those are other reasons.
Okay. Now, how do you train them?
Well, depending on the area. Each volunteer is required to attend an interview session. They also need to attend an orientation, and there's a variety of health screenings and background checks are involved before you can even become a volunteer here at St. Alexis. But how we train them is we train them either through some people on our staff, such as myself. I have a few other associates that work along with me, as well as lead volunteers that have been here for a long time. Again, depending upon which area they're volunteering.
Right. Okay, now, again, we were just talking about you're going to be expanding your
Exactly.
volunteer base. Talk about that.
Oh, sure. We're very proud. The health system is opening up a new hospital April 6th. It's called the Alexian Brothers Women and Children's Hospital here on the St. Alexis campus. And because of that, we do need more volunteers. And we're in the process right now of expanding by 25%, which is approximately 100 new volunteers that will be starting with us because of the new hospital.
Right now, do you have a base of? Do you have people in the lineup? I mean, coming in.
Yeah, we've already filled about 80 of the 100 positions, and we keep on looking for people. So we have a match. It's very similar to a job, if the needs that we have, different times of day, etc. So
Right.
it works out well. We really appreciate everyone in the community coming forward to support the hospital.
Now, a volunteer, how many hours they work a week?
That's a great question. Most volunteers do an average of one shift a week, which is approximately 4 hours. But there are some volunteers that volunteer multiple days, 2 and 3 days a week. Same thing for 4-hour shifts.
Okay. Again, I talk about things that the benefit they have to do it. Do you have people talk about perks. You know, is there any
Sure,
perks
no,
to
that's
being
great.
a volunteer?
There are perks besides that, getting your hours or the wonderful feeling that you
Right.
get from giving back to the community. Each time a volunteer comes here at the medical center to volunteer for the 4-hour shift, we do give them a little voucher, so they do get a free meal in our cafeteria here. So that is a little perk. They get free parking. I guess you could say that's a perk.
That is a perk.
Free flu shots, as well as TB tests. So those are a few of the things they get. Also, they get discounts on a variety of services. For example, some of the movie tickets, we partner with various movie companies. They get discounts on that. Things like Great America. So there are a variety of things. Plus, we have an annual party every year, and we do little things for Volunteer Week for them, gift cards, things such as that. So
Right.
very much we try to show our appreciation in return for everything they give us.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. Would it be possible to talk to a couple of them? Or?
We would love to have you talk to some of our
Okay.
volunteers. We have this afternoon, we have probably about 30 to 40 volunteers here this afternoon. The morning
right.
shift's already left.
Okay, maybe just talk to one or two.
Wonderful,
We'd
thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're here at the information desk now at St. Alexis, and with me is one of the volunteers, Mike. And Mike, could you tell me how long you've been volunteering and what exactly you do here?
I've been volunteering about 1 year, and I do various things at the hospital. Transport patients, give visitors all sorts of information, and it's very rewarding. We serve all the surrounding communities, including Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Hanover Park, and it's a rewarding experience, and I really enjoy it.
Okay, thank you. And then, okay, we're talking to Pat Overman, she's also a volunteer. Pat, tell us a little bit about what your function here and how long you've been doing it and how you enjoy it.
I'm fairly new. I've been a volunteer for like only 3 months now, and I really enjoy it, helping people, find where they're supposed to be going.
Good. And you get satisfaction out of, gets you out of the house and doing that type of thing.
I love it.
What exactly do you do? You're here at the desk. You tell us about when people come in, what you do.
Yes, we do. Well, they'll come here if they're looking for a patient that's in the hospital. We look up on the computer to find out what room they are, and then we direct them to that room.
Good. Okay. So this is something you would recommend that
Yes,
people do?
definitely.
It's very satisfying and worthwhile.
Very much, yeah. I've younger years, I was a Girl Scout leader for 5 years. Loved doing that, work with the Girl Scouts, and worked at a hospital myself for a while, and that's why I like the hospital volunteering.
Okay. All right. Thank you both, and we've got to get back and talk to Monica. Tell us about the commitment
Sure.
that they have to make.
Thank you. We do ask people that would like to volunteer here at St. Alexis for a minimum of a 6-month commitment. And that averages out, if you do 1 shift a week, to approximately 100 hours. That's the minimum that we do require. Because we do get calls that people say, oh, can I come volunteer in the hospital just for the weekend or 1 day? And I always like to kid around and say it's not like neighborhood cleanup day. This is truly a commitment. The hospital is ever evolving and changing, and they need to keep up with all the policies and changes that are going on in the hospital. So we treat it kind of like a job. Of course, people do go on vacation. God forbid they're ill. We have a whole procedure of how they call in so we can get substitutes for them. But we find that people like to generally stay more than 6 months. They really enjoy giving back, and the wonderful group of people here that they work with.
Okay, once again, someone wants to get involved, they go to the website.
They can go to the website. They
Right.
can come, that's one way. They can come to St. Alexis Medical Center, and our information desks have hard copies of the applications, which
Right.
they can be provided. Or they could call, they can actually call a number. Should I give you the number?
Yeah.
847-755-8708. 847-755-8708. That's a number that we have for people to call in, leave their information, and we can get back with them.
Okay, and again, that may be a call that you would really, if you make, you're going to be very happy about it, because it's a big operation here, and St. Alexis is expanding, and of course Monica has really filled us in on what they do and what they need. So I want to thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Dan.
And again, this has been another segment of Schaumburg Heartbeat. I'm Dan McNulty. Thanks for watching.